Dr. Huang Wei. She almost needs no introduction. She's a very good friend of the OCS. She hasn't been here for 5 years, I think. Her really very exciting lecture will address questions surrounding the production, design, and markets for Yuan Blue-and-White, where and issues of technology, consumption, and markets, and the historical factors and mechanisms that led to the emergence of Yuan Blue-and-White. So I'm very, very pleased. This is the basis of Dr. Huang's PhD thesis, and she holds a doctorate from Tsinghua University and an MA from Peking University. She's also the co-founder of the Dongjiao Institute for Ceramic Studies and is widely published. So we're hoping next year to be able to visit Jingdezhen with her. So no pressure. May. So I just want to publicize this. So please join, because it will make some money for the OCS. And it will be very fun, yeah. So without further ado, I'd like to hand over to Dr. Huang Wei, with thanks to a very special OCS member who supported her visit here to Hong Kong. Thank you very much.
Hello, everyone. I have not spoken English for almost 5 years. So this time, Renee asked me to speak in English. This makes me a little nervous, actually. But anyway, my Jingdezhen accent English, I suppose, is good enough to explain my PhD paper, right? So I think. So anyway, I have seen many of you are my old friends, so we are very familiar. This talk is focused on the birth of Yuan Blue-and-White. I want to make it into something like a novel, make my speech to be interesting and make it easy going. So that's why I spent quite a lot of time to make my PPT. So if you enjoy it, I would be very happy. So now let's start from. 这个要用手指的吗 ？With fingers, okay. We know that the Yuan Blue-and-White from this David vase, and it was in 1351. This we will call it the David vase style, which is very familiar for us. And from it, scholars have found the David vase style, which is famous in East and West. Anyway, for collectors, most of the collectors cares more about the authenticity, the rarity, the price of the Yuan Blue-and-White, while the scholars cares more about when they start, how long they last, and which is the essence or the nature of the Yuan Blue-and-White. Is it the imperial king or official king, or is it from the private king? Anyway, for so long time, many scholars suppose it is because of the Mongol rulers. They prefer the color blue and white, that they make blue and white wares, which I suppose it is quite childish. For me, in Jingdezhen, I stayed there for 20 years. I know how to make porcelain, how to organize the porcelain. So it is just a concept. If you like the color, you should make this kind of porcelain. That should be a joke. And for others, they say the Yuan Blue-and-White was made for diplomatic reward. They were reward for free. I don't think the Yuan court, the ruler of Yuan court, have so much money. So they are in this way. The academic research of Yuan Blue-and-White is something like, in Chinese, we say 盲人摸象. I don't know how to explain it in English, you know. So in this way, my topic, my PhD paper, I used this kind of concept, which is a Huism concept, which is from Chinese medication. I want to try a new method to do research. So this is really a challenge for me. For this topic, we should concern more on what? On logic. So in this speech, please follow my logic. That's the most important. Let's first focus on what? On Yuan Blue-and-White porcelain wares itself. People always do research according to the document. They neglect the porcelain itself. That's really very strange. So question 1 is, what is the product characteristics of a typical Yuan Blue-and-White? If we do not know the person itself, for example, we do not know where it comes from, right? The same is the research of Yuan Blue-and-White. When we meet the very sophisticated problem, usually we should focus on dividing into simple things and the complicated things. In this way, something like the Yuan Blue-and-White, we have diverse types of Yuan Blue-and-White actually, but we should focus on the, how to say, 牵牛要牵牛鼻子. I don't know how to speak in English. You should focus on the major problem. We know the most important collection of Yuan Blue-and-White is in Topkapi in Turkey, and the second in Iran at Birth. And they have wonderful collection, very famous. In China mainland now, it is very popular for people to travel to Turkey. They just want to see this. They are the treasures of Chinese porcelain. And in my PhD paper, I tried a new method to do this research because I know how to make porcelain. So firstly, when you ask me to make porcelain, the first thing is you should give me the size. In Jingdezhen, we have different size to call it. So I tried to change the nowadays diameter into Yuan dynasty size, which is 1 inch. Each equals 3.7 centimeter. And I tried. I found something new. You can see this is the Topkapi collection, which is 19 pieces. Actually, you will find there are 4 sizes. That is 13, 30.5, 15, and 15.5. Very standard, yeah, very standard. And also at Birth in Iran, it's also very standard. Only this one is different. This one is a customer made. I will explain it later. You know, if you know the technique of making porcelain, you will find most of the plate of Yuan Blue-and-White was molded shaped. And there are 3 types of molding, which are round and flower shaped and with the insides molded, 3 types. And I tried to 验证我的想法，怎么说？Verify my minding, right?
Validate your thoughts.
Yeah, very my thought. And I found the pieces from Iran, from Turkey, and from India, the 那个口径误差，这个怎么说 ？You understand?
It's the margin of error of the measurements.
Good translator. And you will find almost 40%, over 100% correct. I asked the nowadays porter, can you make the plate in such big size and into 100% correct? They say I could not do that, which means the Yuan Blue-and-White is in the characteristic 1 is high precision molding. Is it right?
Yeah.
No problem, right? The second is I want to try to check what is the quality control. You know, if you are doing make porcelain, the second is you should make quality control. We have a new museum which was donated by a rich man. He is the student and also a teacher, formerly in Jingdezhen Ceramic Institute. And then he had a lot of money, and he bought a lot of shards that was excavated from Jingdezhen downtown. They have many such kind of plates from the kiln sites. But the Jingdezhen Archaeology Institute do not have such kind of wares. And you will see they have the 13 inches, 30.5 inches. You can see they are almost very much like the official kiln quality control, which is high standard quality control. They will not throw anyway. They should be under secret and high standard quality control. So that's very interesting. The third is, according to the document, the qilin and the phoenix and the rabbit and the lingzhi and the dragon and others should not be used by normal people or civil people, right? But if you check the design of the Yuan Blue-and-White in detail, you will see they are very similar to the same time braid, silk braid, and the stone and lacquer. Is it right? The same time. So we call it high-level designing. That is the characteristic 3. The other is something like from the Iran and Turkey. You see the detail. They are qilin and fima, the fly horse, also very similar, like the same time official lacquer and stone and braidware. And the design method, if you have ever make porcelain yourself, you design yourself, you will see the designing method of Yuan Blue-and-White actually is very interesting. They have major decoration and the side major decoration and the different 边饰 minor decoration, right? It's very interesting. They 不同的组合 how to say? Benjamin, 不同的组合怎么说?
I think it's a mixture of minor and major decoration.
Okay. Good translation. You could not understand. You can ask Benjamin. Many people say that painter of Yuan Blue-and-White come from 慈州窑, and this kind of idea is very popular in scholars, but I don't think so. For example, this is the best quality painting of 慈州ware. Let's compare them with Yuan Blue-and-White. For example, the fish design. See the detail. Compare with the Yuan Blue-and-White fish design. They are more like the painting, not like the 慈州窑, 慈州ware, which they are different. If you know Chinese painting and calligraphy, you know the difference. They are really different, right? And if you compare the same motif, like the rock and the bamboo, you will see Yuan Blue-and-White, Yongle, and Qing dynasty, they are lower and lower level. I mean the painting skill, they are lower and lower. Yuan Blue-and-White is the best, so we call it a high-level painting. For example, the fish, they are similar, very similar fish in Yuan painting. And there is a Rocky, I don't know how to put his name, English. The famous professor. He had ever come to my lecture in London. He had ever do research with painting and Yuan Blue-and-White. They are very easy to say. They are quite similar. So, and then you will find in Yuan Blue-and-White they have a super high level painting. For example, the famous Chiang in Japan. See the 3 ladies. You can even see the 羽毛怎么说 feather 就是那种质感，就是羽毛的那种It's very hard for nowadays to paint it. Nowadays could not paint it in such kind of 就是那种神采，画不出来。And the 3 ladies, the 3 foreigners, and the two Chinese men. They are all have their own characteristic. This is a super high painting, high level painting, which I have never seen before and never seen later. Even nowadays, people could not paint such kind of level. Even nowadays, Jingdezhen, I have never seen such kind of this high level painting. There is a paper. If you have the interest, you can read, which is Xu Hui. Xu Hui is a famous painting scholar from Beijing Palace Museum, and he had done a research about the court painter of Yuan, and he say there are two types of painters in Yuan court. The first is the literary painter, something like, for example, like Zhao Mengfu. They are very concept painting, we say. The other is Gongting Yijiang, which is something like an artisan or craftsman, this kind of painter. They also design clothes. They design lacquer and paint lacquer, paint the bihua, let's say, the wall painting. My tutor, Liu Xinyuan, Mr. Liu Xinyuan, according to his research, he say the special design of Yuan Blue-and-White come from the Yuan court. According to my research, the topest painting, the painter come from Yuan court. They are not from Ciroyao. They are directly from Yuan artisan painter. Gongting Yijiang, I don't know how to explain. You understand? Court artisan, yeah. The painter is court artisan. And I, to verify my thought, I have made a hardworking work in my PhD. I collect 334 pieces of typical Yuan Blue-and-White, including big plate. Let's see. I will check your eyes. There are 3 inches Yuan Blue-and-White, big plate. 2 types, round-shaped and flower-shaped. Everyone is different. The 31.5 inches, everyone is different. Each are individual. The 14 inches, different. The 41 are different. Not 40, 45. The 15 inches is the most popular. They are all different. No, not two the same. There are no two same design Yuan Blue-and-White plate. And also the flower-shaped 50 inches, all different. 15.5 inches, and the others. This famous Iran with inscription is 18.5 inches, and the biggest is in France, and the others with the inscription. I mean, they're under molding shaped, all different. And the others that have no size, all different. Let's see the jar. Jar have 3 liu jian guan. We have 3 types, all different. The fish jar, all different. And the peony design, all different. And this with the peony and dragon, all different. Dragon and phoenix, different. This is the with animal, auspicious animal, different. The dragon jar, all different. With the fingers, all different. And with the pushou guan, with the two ears, all different. This is the second type, B lei, type B, all different. C, type C, different. Type D, different. Let's just have a look. This is a very big jar. This size, all different, and the others jar, all different. And the four in existence, this type of jar, all different. Mapping is sometimes they have 2 how to say? 一对 a hair. But very few. In Topkapi, they have a pair. The others are not that in pair. See, different. Peony, different. Dragon, different. This is different. This one, the Gaoan Jiaocang, and in China mainland hall, they are a pair. And with the fingers design, different. This is H 八方的 A 不知道怎么说 octangular, right? This the other shape different. The 葫芦瓶 good shaped all different. And the 扁壶 all different. Last time in Jingdezhen, we have a 那个培训班怎么说 about Yuan Blue-and-White, and there are many collectors from Guangdong and from other places. They have many collections like this. They are all of course, it is fake. And if you see the detail, for example, this motif, you can check. They are all different. I mean the 细节, the detail, they are different. Even this is very popular, right? The lotus design, sometimes with crane, with the bird, not bird, 鸳鸯. Sometimes just only have the lotus. They are all different. And the fish, 桂鱼, all different. They have different types of 桂鱼. If you have ever knows the 桂鱼, there are different types. Another evidence is the Red Sea, the shipwreck from Red Sea. They are totally 53 pieces, but all different. And this with inscription, actually, and oversized pieces, actually is custom made. If you make porcelain yourself, you will know why it was custom made. Because if you have your inscription, you should not sell it to other customer, right? So this should be custom made. So the question one, the answer is, you read yourself. So no problem, right? You can check my idea. This is another type of oral presentation or PhD. The second question is, what can we learn from the unique product characteristic of Yuan Blue-and-White? So the first is it is a reverse scaling manufacturing and high standard and high level production, which means the Yuan Blue-and-White does not profit by quality, right? Or does not make profit from quantity. But we know it must differ from the business model of mass commodities that profit from quantities. Could you understand?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Here I use Chinese. Compare between the Yuan Blue-and-White and luxury goods. You will find the Yuan Blue-and-White almost have every characteristic of luxury goods. You can compare yourself. And actually, the luxury industry have special rulers. For example, they should be rare. They should not be reproduced. They should be very high quality, good made, and could not be 替代怎么说？不能被替代。
Cannot be irreplaceable.
Irreplaceable, cannot be replaceable, and should be very beautiful. You are familiar with luxury wear, you know, and you know luxury wear is different from 高档品。怎么说？高档品。Luxury wear is different from high standard pieces or high class pieces. They are different idea, different concept. So the question two, the answer is, I have explained it. This is the answer. And the question three is, What kind of nature is Yuan Blue-and-White porcelain? Is it official king or a civil king? Let's see. We can compare it with the official king and the civil king. You will find the Yuan Blue-and-White have both characters, but similar but different. It's very, very special. Very, very special. Compare with luxury wares, they are the same. So the answer is, in nature, Yuan Blue-and-White is neither an official king nor a civil king, but it also has some characteristics of both official king and civil king, which is a special existence in the history of Chinese ceramics. This is my new finding. It is a luxury grade export ware, very special. The question 4 is, why did the large plate become the core product of Yuan Blue-and-White? What are its use? How it was used? According to my statistics, you will find the big plate have 148 pieces, which is called so much. That means the big plate or the large plate is the core product of Yuan Blue-and-White. And why later? It is because the luxury ware, they have a special ruler. They should be simple and easygoing, and should be focused on 就是要单一产品，这个不能太复杂 ，should not be complicated.
It's like an anchor product in a luxury brand. It's like a Birkin in a brand.
That's my translator. Okay. Okay. And if you see the wares in India Palace, this is a photo by my friend, Gustin Steven, American friend. He is very friendly with me. He gave me this picture. And you will see there are a lot of yuan large plate that were used in the kitchen, in the palace kitchen. And also in the painting of, let's see how it was used and how it was designed. Actually, they are used in the high grade, high class feast, right? And this should be in this way. Could you understand? You should see from the circle. And how it was designed, because every guest is, it should be cared, take good care. So that's why, if you take a detailed look of the design of the Yuan Blue-and-White, you will find they have from this way, from that way, which means it's different from this. Could you understand? That is the Chinese design. That's the Yongle, Ming Dynasty. That's wrong. This is right. I mean for the use of Middle East people. So the question 4, my answer is, it was, you read yourself, okay? The banquet of Muslims are translated by my computer. And the question 5, all this I ask myself, what is the product layout of Yuan Blue-and-White? You know, in the scholars, during scholars, we divide into typical Yuan Blue-and-White and the non-typical Yuan Blue-and-White, or we call it East Asia type or Iran type, and then Southeast type. But actually, from the manufacturer of Jingdezhen wares, porcelain, you know, actually every porcelain should have its strategy. And if you are familiar with luxury goods, they are all in diamond. You understand, right? You understand? 有入门级，有这个核心的东西，核心产品，核心系列，有顶级系列。 怎么说？
Even in luxury brand, you got products in entry levels, and you got products in high end. You have to buy a lot of the entry levels.
Yes,
the
yes.
high end, the Birkin.
Yes, and the Yuan Blue-and-White is the same. I divided into three. Actually, there are 3 or 4 types. Actually, they're according to their design, to their quality, and especially from their clay. There are different clay. The first top grade, the top series and the core series are the same in clay, but the entry class, there are 2 types of clay. And especially Yuhu Chun, they are not the core series. And what is the answer? You know it. And the question 6 says, where does the technology come from? This is always a quarrel between West scholars and Chinese scholars. Because Yuan Blue-and-White, before later the Song dynasty, we focus on polychrome wares. But after Yuan dynasty, we have many painting, decoration wares. So Yuan Blue-and-White is very special. The David vase come from, they say people have 2 types of opinion, which is local technology, and the technology come from abroad. 2 types of idea, but my opinion is grafting. We can see we have the Yuan Blue-and-White have the overseas or other or the 这个怎么说呢？就是有外来因素。I have 那个这怎么中文跟英文加在一起
Because I think this group of wares is discovered from Hongxing Xiyuan. This group.
This is first we check the overseas element, overseas 那个 factor.
This group has the Persian script.
Yeah, have Persian.
So
I
you
have.
know that it has Persian.
They have the Persian inscription, and recently I found they have inside another very special inscription which named Saha. This is only found in this early type of Yuan Blue-and-White, and I tried myself. This was popular in Islamic pottery, not in China. So that's why I suppose they have the Persian potter come to Jingdezhen to make the research of Yuan Blue-and-White in the early time. And if you check the local factor, you will see this is quite complicated for you because they have many chemical analysis. You will find the clay and the molding technique and the firing technique. They are all from Shufuzi. Could you understand? More like a Shufuzi. And why Yuan Blue-and-White flourished in Jingdezhen? That's the reason is Jingdezhen had very high standard technique. The Longquan kiln do not have such kind of technique. That's why Jingdezhen have the priority. So that is the origin of Yuan Blue-and-White. Could you understand? I suppose you understand. The question 6, so the answer is the technique source of Yuan Blue-and-White has both external factor and a local factor, which is the result of grafting of Jingdezhen Shufu porcelain and Islamic glazed blue-colored pottery technology. And the question 7 is when did Yuan Blue-and-White become mature? 这个上限怎么说？时间上限。
Precursor.
Could not be as earlier than 1323. Could you understand? This is from the shipwreck.
The earliest date of maturity is 1323.
And the deadline should not be later than 1335. You understand? Because they have the inscription. But you know, Yuan have a very complicated emperors. And the emperor should divide into 3 types. The first emperor have 34 years, and the middle, they are 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. They have 38 years, and the last 37. You know, which emperor have the Yuan Blue-and-White? You know, this should be happened between these emperors. But this one, the little guy, have only 42 days. That guy have only Yuan Mingzong have 184 days. So not exist. Yuan Wenzong, although he had 4 years in reign, but actually he 怎么说？谋杀了他的哥哥，谋杀了他的侄子。他一直在忙于政治斗争。How to say？没时间做瓷器，没时间管经济，只会花钱。这么说吧，讲通俗一点就这个意思啊。But why? Well, so the only possibility is the Taiding emperor and the last emperor. The question is we should divide it in 2 questions， 就是技术渐变还是突变？这个怎么说？这元青花能不能是渐变的？技术是渐变的还是突变的？
Is it a gradual change, or is it
or sudden change? We should first answer the question 1 and then the question 2. You understand? Question 2 is when it was matured. If you check the history of Jingdezhen, Yuan dynasty, you can see in the Yuan Renzong and Yuan Yingzong before Taiding, that is 1314 and 1323. Actually, Jingdezhen had tried the 铁绘 iron painting. They are trying this kind of technique. And if you take a detailed look of the Xing'an shipwreck, which is 1323, and the mature Yuan Blue-and-White, you will find 就是加了个彩嘛。Can you understand? Just the shape, the clay are all the same, but the Yuan Blue-and-White just have some decoration. Could you understand? So that is, we say from this time, for this way, because we have say the Yuan Blue-and-White technology is from grafting, right? And also, for here you can see the technique of Yuan Blue-and-White have the possibility of sudden evolve. Understand? And there is a very interesting man. He was only 20 years old at that time. Nanchang, Jiangxi Nanchang people. And he had traveled abroad in 1331 and 1334 twice. The first is to for 5 years to West Asia, very far away from China. The second is 1331 to 1339. And all his record is in 岛夷之略. He recorded a lot of information. What kind of commodity was popular in that country? There are more than 200 countries, and all records are credible. I read the document for at least 10 times, because my undergraduate major is history, and I find a secret. That is the Qingbai which according to his document actually is Yuan Blue-and-White. So, and in the shipwreck of Xing'an shipwreck, the porcelain of Xi'an shipwreck, you will find the Qingbai ware, we call it white ware. The celadon glazed ware, we call it Qingci. They have never used the Qingbai Huaci. Qingbai ci is Qingci 加白ci. Qingbai Huawan is Qingwan 加白碗加花碗. Oh, anyway, it's too complicated for you. anyway, we know they are the I concluded it was Taiding. In Taiding period, the Yuan Blue-and-White matured. You understand from this? And the question 7, the answer is the Taiding period of Yuan dynasty. And who is the organizer behind the Yuan Blue-and-White? If you have ever lived in Jingdezhen and make your porcelain yourself, you will see what is the most important for making porcelain. The most important is money, you know. And the second important is the organizer. If you do not have a good organizer, even you are very rich, you could not make good porcelain. And who is the organizer? We know if you make a porcelain into luxury wares, you should have 3 factors. The first is money. The second is privilege. The third is talented people. Could you understand? In Yuan dynasty, we call it official money, not the civil money, because the money is very big, more than 10 billions at least. And the support from Yuan court, because you should use the best quality calling clay. And the calling clay was controlled by the Yuan court. And then you should have an organizer which is familiar with the global trade and good at luxury management, luxury wear management, right? So in Yuan dynasty, only these people have this ability. That is old merchants. I use the 反向推理, how to say? 反向推理.
Reverse psychology.
Reverse psychology to find the organizer. I should introduce the older merchants. Actually, it was researched by many people. The most famous is Wong Dujian. He published the paper focused on older merchants in 1941. This is a very famous paper. And he knows many languages, which is impossible for me. He knows Mongol language, Persian language, Turkish language, so many languages. It's impossible for nowadays scholars. He's a very excellent scholar. And I should introduce the older merchants. They have changed their role. Before the Yuan dynasty, they are focused on banking, you understand? Banking and investing, high profit. But later, when the Yuan dynasty established, they are focused on overseas trade. And they have, in Yuan dynasty, the older merchant have a special role, that is doing luxury wear, luxury goods trade with the Mongol rulers. Understand? For example, that is the 皇后怎么说？我都忘记了。Empress. Actually, the ruler of Mongol, they prefer they do not enjoy ceramics. They enjoy the pearls, the diamonds, not diamonds, 那个宝石。红宝石怎么说？ Jewel. I should say jewels. They enjoy jewelry better than porcelain. That is the famous ruler Hu Bilie. See the belt. For example, according to the document, for example, 我换算一下哈。那个 Benjamin Chen 那个给我翻译一下 ，one diamond 那 one jewel， 一颗红宝石大约等于70万担大米，大概就414.万公斤，相当于白银35万两。 根据当时的这个财政收入来讲，一颗红宝石相当于3%的国家财政收入，这个很吓人的，是极为昂贵的奢侈品。你翻译吧。
One ruby, I didn't know the carats, equals to a certain measurement of rice. So I think it's 414 kilograms. I think equals to 350,000 taels of silver, and that could be almost 3% of a country's GDP.
Yeah. So it costs a lot of money. So who is the organizer? That is the order merchants who are proficient in international trade, and they are from West Asia. The question 9 is, why did the Yuan Blue-and-White happen in the Taiding period of Yuan dynasty? We should ask this question, because order merchant has been matured and exists in the whole Yuan dynasty, but why they do not play the important role in other period, only in Taiding? Because in Taiding, they have met a very dual predicament. They are short of money, and they have problem with the overseas trades. For example, at that time, the minister say, 我说中文啊，外国的东西更值钱，中国东西不值钱，然后这个外贸根本不挣钱，听懂吗？就在元中期的时候，就是进口东西更多，出口东西不值钱，然后导致呢这个元朝很缺钱。
There's a lot of things imported from foreign countries and very few things exported, so there's a huge deficit. Huge trade deficit.
Yeah. 然后就出现一种 and then it happened 叫中国入侵翻货反重 that is Chinese 那个 express, which means we have a gap of luxury wear for export. Could you understand? So they are short of money. And then the other important reason is silk and porcelain are the most important export wear for China. But in Yuan dynasty, the silk pieces is not as good as the West Asia. Could you understand? The quality is not as good as the West Asia silk wares, silk coats. And the other is Chinese porcelain. The polychrome wares, especially the celadon ware, is not expensive anymore. For example, in China, we have excavation in Jiangsu, which is the relics of 古代的海关，就是古代的海关custom relics. They have 那个成吨的那个几百吨的这个瓷器，就是的龙泉卖不出去，可以说。If it was easy for selling, it should not have so much 这么多库存呢。不可能有这么多库存。And according to the traveler of Morocco, Ibn Battuta, he say in China we say the price of in Chinese of porcelain is similar or the same as in his hometown. Could you understand? Which means that we have non-profit, or the Longquan ware become not an
expensive commodities as in the Song dynasty, because they were vastly produced and then so they are not.
Yeah. And also we have a challenge from Persian ware, Islamic ware. Islamic ware, they are good at doing decoration. They are bling bling, not. And even the Chinese collector, they enjoy it. They say the Persian potter is good at ceramics, and if you check the relic in India, you will find the Persian potter shards in India palace. And the second reason, this is very important. My new discovery, the minister, the Muslim prime minister in Taiding. He is very important. If Dalasha was not that capable, we should not see Yuan Blue-and-White. But Dalasha was very, very. 我说中文啊，等一下。we say, we have say Yuan Blue-and-White happened in Taiding, but why it was not happened before? It's because I found it from the document. During my research, I read the Yuan dynasty document for at least 15 times, and I find something new, very important. They have 冤枉了这个特别好的宰相，那个岛拉沙是政治牺牲品，你这样说吧。
Because why Yuan Blue-and-White was not mature before Taiding period? Because it was due to some political turmoil.
This emperor murdered the son of the Taiding emperor, and also murdered his own brother. Could you understand? And then he also asked the officer to erase the document of the minister. Could you understand? Erase all the document, all the record. So that's why all the historians nowadays have neglected this minister because no document. But 我给他翻了案，怎么说？Well, I do the research for him. He is the right man. He's very capable, very, very capable. This one was murdered from the Liangdu之战. The other, his brother, was murdered in Tianli之变. And the Yuan Wenzong, this emperor is the only emperor, a very, very, very seldom emperor, 即位了2次 twice. The Dalasha, I mean the minister who is in charge of the economy and the finance of the Taiding period, is very capable and practical. He is not that lucky. During his reign, they have many, many 灾祸，怎么说？天天的救灾。然后他这个给这个溺死的人，就是溺死的人给他棺材，给这个溺死的人一定钞票，一定就20两银子，然后给这个死掉的人20贯，所以经常发钱发棺材，做的慈善事业做得特别好，非常绝无仅有的一个现象。你翻译一下。不是，这 the minister， 你翻译吧。不翻译就这么跳过去了。他们听得懂吗？就是慈善事业做得特别好，特别关照普通老百姓，这样说吧。
I think they have done a lot of charitable work to benefit the people of the country.
花了很多钱。He spent a lot of money for the poor people, and he earned a lot of money. The question 9 is why did Yuan Blue-and-White happen in Taiding? I have so many questions myself. That is the answer. Because of the important minister. The question 9 is how much did the Yuan court invest on Yuan Blue-and-White, and what mechanism stimulated the rapid occurrence of Yuan Blue-and-White? This is also a very important question. And I find the key here. This is another officer, very important officer from Han people, and he 我得用中文讲，叫张圭，是一个非常重要的泰定时期的一个副总理，这样说吧。他呢就写了一封奏章去告这个岛拉沙，就前面那个宰相，然后说他呢这个在泰定帝即位之初就还给那帮沃托商30万锭，让他们去从事海外贸易。这30万锭呢花得太冤枉了。他说为什么呢？因为我们国家整个农业税收1年才11万锭，他一下子花了30万锭，这不是在雪上加霜吗？这个是一个汉族的 副总理去告当时的总理乱花钱。
So the vice minister accused the minister of overspending on the country's expenditures, especially the countries already in financial hardship.
这个 spend a lot of money, and at that period, it's very interesting. 元朝的海外贸易基本的都是官本商办，就是 the official or the court invest, and the private people do the business. Could you understand? 官本商办，政府投资，民间运营。怎么说？所以很难这个。
The government initiates the operation, and the people actually doing the operation.
Government funded, private operated business. You understand?
Yep.
They invest so big money, such big money. The question 11 is how much money did it earn? Because 我是江阴省人大代表，因为我经常看政府的财政报表，我就能看懂这些。怎么说？那个。
She is very familiar with reading the financial reports of the government, so she has a clue of how much money that Yuan Blue-and-White has earned for the reign of tithing.
Actually, these two emperor could have been neglected because they are too short, and we can see how much money every time. In the early time, they are only 100万锭到300万锭, and in the middle Yuan dynasty, that is 400, and then this is very 900, more than 900. This is more than 900. And the most interesting is I found the scholars who focus research the Yuan dynasty economy, they are wrong. 他们算错了账，他们把这个账算成是元文宗的。我说不是，这是泰定帝的，因为元文宗一直在忙着政治斗争，他在忙着花钱，他不可能去赚钱，因为他是在1328年，1328年就是泰定帝5年。我不讲这个细节了，反正就是他没有增发货币，yuan did not 没有增发货币，怎么说？
Did not issue extra currencies.
没有通货膨胀啊，他赚了那么多钱，所以我们可以说 we can conclude 就是泰定朝那个 aims to double with fiscal revenue within 5 years. It really shocked me when I do the research. And what clues we can see in Taiding? Actually, we can find a lot of clues. The first is, 哎呀，这个好难解释。你自己看吧。就是 in Taiding period, there are many envoys from Iran, very frequent. Too frequent. Actually, they are doing merchant. They are trade with each other. Could you understand? They are trading, and they have big money come from Iran, from West Asia. And there is a famous supervisor named Duan Tinggui. In the first year of Taiding period, he was going to Jingdezhen. He go to Jingdezhen to supervise the manufacturing of porcelain. And he is the 三品官 grade 3, which nowadays 省级干部了，这个高官呢 high rank officer. And the most interesting, 我翻了他的履历啊，我发现他管过市舶司，就是 he has the experience of managing the customs, 是吧 custom. So have the experience of doing export. And we have the 这个饶州路总管府 this kind of remains porcelain. And also in the first year of Taiding, it changed the policy. I mean the 税收制度变了，税收制度怎么说？ taxation policy has changed.
Revised.
And if you check the good shape, good shaped vases in 这个是 Turkey, you will see there is a two character 未抽, which means it was not taxed. Because not taxed, it means it was sponsored or invested by the official money. So we have many evidence. Actually, we have evidence from Chiang sites. I neglected. You understand? And the question 3 is, what is the target market for Yuan Blue-and-White? How the market changed? I should thank Dr. Huang family and thank Professor Peter Lam. Professor Lam invited me to be visiting scholar in 2010 and do the research of Dr. Huang collection because the family donated a lot of shards which were excavated from East Java. And I do the research, and then that is the Majapahit kingdom, which is the most prosperous kingdom in the 14th century, especially the early half of 14th century. And when we go there to do the investigation, they have very beautiful pieces, very, very beautiful, and numerous such kind of ware. This shard cost me, they asked for, 馆长还记得吗？要8万块钱。人民币。I do not have that money, but I asked him to give me a slab for one night. Very good quality. And the kingdom, the Majapahit kingdom, have many Yuan Blue-and-White, including the big plate, big bowl, big jar, 梅瓶, Yukuchun vase. The quantity is much more than Turkey, than Iran, than India. You cannot imagine. And they have such kind of ware, the beautiful with finger design, the Yukuchun. This is me and Professor Peter Lam in Majapahit Kingdom. We have collected the shards from the they have a lot of shards. This is I do the map myself. This is where the Yuan Blue-and-White nowadays have. But actually, you will see the first period is focused on the big West Ocean market, which is West Asia, and then they changed the market to the East Ocean Circle. The divide line is 1330 because the Ilkhanate kingdom collapsed into chaos. 就是伊尔汗国和印度都进入混乱，1330年左右，就是它的市场就转移到 Majapahit Kingdom, become the core or the major market for Yuan Blue-and-White from 1330. That is my answer. The largest consumer market for Yuan Blue-and-White is the Majapahit Kingdom in Choulan. If you have the time, you can have a visit there. And the question 14 is, did the Yuan Blue-and-White continue to be made after Taiding? And what is the change after Taiding? According to the document, it is this way. Recently, I wrote a small paper. Actually, this shard was excavated from Foliang County in 2013. And then this piece is the fragment from a big furnace. And the excavator, the local farmer, asked me for 68万块钱. This piece, 8万，这个是8万，2013年。And it is 80,000 renminbi in 2013. I do not have that money. This was dated 1334. I can see it is the same hand with David Vaz. And actually they are together with the furnace. It's very important, but I do not have the money. So ask the donator of that rich man, graduate from Jingdezhen Ceramic Institute, and later he donated the museum. He bought it and then donated to Jingdezhen Ceramic Institute. Now was collected in Jingdezhen Ceramic Institute Yuan Blue-and-White Museum. They are actually the 香炉花瓶一副, which is 2 vases with 1 censer. Understand? So this shard means from 1334, and this is the 1337 and 1351. They are from the same hand. The same hand. The calligraphy. Professor Peter Lam have also done research before me, and we have the same idea. So from this we can see, at least from 1344, the high-grade Yuan Blue-and-White has been opened to local or domestic customer-made. Could you understand? So the last question, did the Yuan Blue-and-White? Yeah, of course, they continue to be made. And from 1344, at least, the high-grade Yuan Blue-and-White porcelain was opened to the domestic market. Or the last question is when it ended and how long it lasted. My idea is different from the scholars. My idea is ended in the Ispash caves, which is 1357 to 1366. At that time, all the merchants from West Asia and Arabs are killed. So they do not have the organizer. How could they make Yuan Blue-and-White? They could not sell it to the overseas to make money. So they have to stop it. Could you understand? That is my reason, my conclusion. So the Yuan Blue-and-White started from the Taiding period and ended in Ispash caves, which lasted a little more than 30 years. That is the total history. The conclusion, I have used the concept of Hoism concept, which is from Chinese medicine, and do research into a circle. This should be a logical circle of the birth of Yuan Blue-and-White, because 这个怎么说啊？就是 if you have familiar with making porcelain, you should know 产业逻辑必须闭环。怎么讲？产业的逻辑一定是闭环的，不然是落不了地的。
Manufacturing a product will be a closed circuit philosophy of closed circuits of whatever it is on the screen.
If not, even Benjamin is good at English. He could not explain it well, so I feel 平衡了一点 balance, a little balance. So in Chinese we say, 其实世界上没有横空出世的陶瓷产品。元青花这种貌似横空出世啊，其实是来自于精心的组织和策划的结果。这就是我的结论。就没有横空出世的东西，你只要做过瓷器就知道，你干过事儿就知道，哪有什么横空出世，无非是精心的组织，就是精心的去运作，要把所有的资源准备到一起，具备天时地利人和，才能做出元青花。所以my conclusion have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11, and 12. I should not read it. There are so many. And for me, I should say, it's a business miracle. Could you understand? Are you agree with me? Do you agree with me? Even nowadays, if I give you a lot of money, 10 billions, and within 5 years, you are asked to do Yuan Blue-and-White from research and traded to so far to Iran, to nowadays Egypt, and make big money. within 5 years, you should give me back at least $2 billion. Can you realize it? It's a miracle. So it shows the wisdom, the how to say, business wisdom of Yuan people. After my writing of my research of my paper, I sent it to the historian of Yuan dynasty. They are shocked by my research because my research is from porcelain to history and to economy. And I find there's many important new discoveries. They say you are right, your finding very important. I say we should not take a look at the Yuan dynasty from the angle of Han people. Actually, the Yuan dynasty have many interesting people, and they have their priority in doing business. It's a very special period. So nowadays, I have more and more interest in Yuan dynasty. Even when I'm doing calligraphy, I prefer Zhao Mengfu. Do you know Zhao Mengfu? Because he is from Yuan dynasty. I hope you can enjoy it. That is my presentation. Thanks.